Following rising suspicion over government's actions and inactions, protesters marched to the presidential villa in Nigeria's capital city, demanding an end to the research of killings by suspected herdsmen in mostly north-central region of the country.
The evidence that I am privy to, and there is quite a bit of it, in my view, points conclusively to the conclusion that the government is not interested in protecting people, but is interested in retaining power.
Contrary to government's claim of technically defeating insurgency in the northern region, the country has within the last 4 years witnessed an upsurge in killings by a group some believe to be more deadly than the Boko Haram.
If you see the person, tell him. No, this. Well, you not there. At the time, what I see? At the time, what I see for my son now? Nothing, sorry.
Thousands have been sacked from their villages, scores killed, and houses burnt in the attacks by herdsmen said to be crossing Nigeria's porous borders in search of grazing lands.
They destroy our crops, they even burn our houses, and they continue those attacks till they push us.
An estimated 1,813 persons have died between January to June 2018, according to the Amnesty International, a situation that has generated concerns within Nigeria and the international community.
It is so sad and so terrible that we still have a situation where these sorts of things can take place and people are killed. So many people are killed in this manner. It's very condemnable that the president has said, he's already in his statement said that whatever it takes, we must ensure that we not only arrest and find all of those who have done this very heinous, who have committed these very heinous acts, but that they are seen to be publicly punished for these actions.
The administration of President Muhammadu Buhari has come under heavy criticism, failing his hope of being re-elected as his administration rapidly becomes unpopular.
The security agencies must be given the marching orders to curtail the sustained killings of Nigerians across the country and protect the life and properties of Nigerians.
The National Assembly, in a joint session consisting the upper and lower chamber, threatens to take a constitutional action against the president if nothing is done to end the killings, a move legal pundits say could mean an impeachment.
Nothing other than preside over killings of innocent Nigerians and outright disregard for constitutional authority of both the executive and the legislative. And finally, the National Assembly will not hesitate to evoke its constitutional powers if nothing is done to address the above resolutions passed today. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Secretariat?
In his meeting with President of the United States, Donald Trump, the Nigerian leader attributed the killings to the spillover of the Libyan war under Muhammad Gaddafi.
The presence of the United States military officials that go to our institutions in Nigeria and train them. The problem about the cattle rearers and herders in Nigeria is a very long historical thing. But the states most concerned, they knew that the Nigerian herders never carried anything more than a stick and occasionally a machete to cut down foliage and give it to their animals. These ones are carrying AK-47. So I don't think people should underrate what happened in Libya. 43 years of Gaddafi, people were recruited from the Sahel. They were taught nothing other than to shoot and kill. With the demise of Gaddafi, they moved to their countries and to their regions, and they carried away with them the only experience they have, training, using weapons. And that's what is aggravating the situation.
Professor Chidi Odinkalu is a former chairman of the National Human Rights Commission, rights activist, and a senior team manager of the Open Society Initiative for West Africa. He has been very vocal, speaking against the killings. He wants government to account for the lives of Nigerians.
Running commentary. Government does not have the luxury of running commentary on the killing of its people, of its citizens, of residents of its territory. What government exists to do is to guarantee the safety and security of everybody who lives within its territory. Whether they come from Libya, trading arms from holdovers from Gaddafi, whether they are people whom Nasser el-Rufai has chosen to pay blood ransom in another country, whether they are militias, whether they are bandits, whether they are Boko Haram holdovers, that is not my business. Government should bring them to account and bring these killings to a stop. Period.
May I again clear the air on the issue of herdsmen and farmers' conflict. Many politicians, in their mischievous attitude, have been blackmailing me and the APC-led administration, purporting that I have not taken any action on the issues because I am a Fulani man. This is a cheap blackmail. Like I said recently, the protection of lives and properties of Nigerians is my responsibility. This I have vowed to do and will stick to the oath of office. I assure you that measures are being taken to ensure lasting solutions.
A former director of the Department of State Security and a consultant, Mike Ejiofor, believes that identifying the killers is paramount to finding a solution to the killings.
If you say politicians are behind, when Goodluck was in power, they say they are trying to destabilize them. Were you able to identify the people behind it? Now, this government has come to power too. It is the same government that accused people in the previous government that are saying these are being sponsored by politicians. So where are the politicians? You should be able to identify them and bring them to book. As long as you cannot do that, you cannot ascribe it to politicians.
As the blame game continues, government have not been able to identify the perpetrators, he says.
Even in government sources, government circle, government has not been able to identify people behind these mass killings. I call it mass killing because initially we were talking of Boko Haram before we now graduated to the herdsmen, which is even deadlier now than the Boko Haram. The issue of herdsmen, they have claimed more lives than the Boko Haram. So there are school of thoughts, like you rightly pointed out. Some say they're from Libya, some say they are politicians, being sponsored by politicians, some say they are fleeing Boko Haram. That does not add up. It has not given any vibe or solution to the problem. But I'm of the school of thought that believe that these attackers are fleeing members of the Boko Haram, because prior to this, the advent of this administration, efforts were concentrated on the northeast, on these Boko Haram. But when the government turned the heat on Boko Haram, they kind of dispersed and started fleeing to other parts of the country, getting involved in killing people, in kidnappings and all the rest of them. So I believe that these people are also pursuing the aims and objectives of Boko Haram.
As accusations and counter-accusations persist over those responsible, doubts on government's political will to prosecute the crisis continues to spread. While some maintain that it is socio-politically motivated, others argue that it is ethno-religious, as some consider it as simply an economic struggle. The Miyetti Allah Cattle Breeders Association had on different occasions described the attacks as a fallout of the anti-grazing laws passed by some states, calling on the federal government to intervene.
I am appealing to the federal government to quickly intervene to solve this problem so that the nomadic Fulanis that are residing in Benue should be allowed freely to move with their cow. The constitution of this country, Nigeria, section 40 allow everybody to move anywhere he wants to go.
Governor Samuel Otom of Benue State, one of the states greatly affected, questions government's willingness to end the killings after failing to investigate the Miyetti Allah officials over remarks he believes suggested their role in the killings.
These militia herdsmen are armed, and as I've said, they have also killed even security men, not just the farmers. So it is a big challenge that federal government must step up to its responsibility. And
he vowed not to go back on the law banning open grazing in the state. Accusing fingers points at different directions, contradicting media narrative of herdsmen being the killers.
They are not Fulani herdsmen. They are not Fulani herdsmen. I continue to emphasize that these are not herdsmen, they are terrorists. But you will also notice that there are isolated cases where there are clashes between the herdsmen and the farmers. So you cannot take such cases and begin to say that they are herdsmen. They are terrorists.
Jerry Datim, a pastor and indigene of Plateau State, believes that there is a conspiracy to annihilate ethno-religious groups in the North Central region to conquer their lands. He alleges that some military officers are in alliance with the attackers of some villages around Barkin Ladi Riom axis of Plateau State, where about 100 people were killed.
Everybody knows that the military are part of the problem. If they remove security, if they remove the STF or JTF, wherever they are today in this country, we will live in peace. Some of the security agencies, they were the ones that reliably informed us because they loaded these things in their presence. And these uniforms are already in Plateau and they are with the Fulanis. I will tell you that Brigadier General Bello was the one that went to distribute this uniform. He used his military hillocks to disperse these uniforms in those villages that were attacked on Saturday and Sunday, and that of yesterday night, Monday night. So General Bello is fully aware. If he can be arrested and then questioned, he will tell them where he kept the uniform and how he distributed them. Whenever they come, any commander that come here, he is coming to make his billions and go away. The Fulanis are giving them cows. I remember what do you call it? My contact with TC Ude, General TC Ude. He detained me for 5 weeks. He collected cows from the Fulanis. The day he moved the cows from Plateau to his village, that was the day I made my call, and he was retired. The same thing all of them are doing. They will tell you they are Christians. General Anthony is speaking with the Sultan. He takes directive from the Sultan direct. Because Bello is here on a mission. What kind of a country is that? People, the whole world have spoken about the combination of the army chiefs. But Buhari is not giving us consent. So he is here to actualize Islamization of Nigeria.
Why I say it is not entirely, it's not that it's not religious, but it's not entirely religious, it's more of political. If you look at mosques are not spared. Only this morning, you read of how a mosque was attacked, a lot of people killed. So why should they be attacking Muslims? They're not attacking only Christians, but you know, they want to make it look political and religious. You also recall the killing in Benue of some priests and some faithful in the church. So they have no boundaries. All they are just out to do is to cause panic, create fear in people, and make people not have belief in government.
Daniel Bwala, a legal practitioner and aspiring senator of Southern Borno, a troubled area in the northeast region, Nigeria, explains that although government is making effort to end the killings, the body language of the president is subject to misinterpretation of being complicit.
I actually do not subscribe to the idea that the president is condoning it because he's Fulani. Because this Miyetti Allah did not even support him in 2015. They gave their support to President Goodluck Jonathan. But you know, you can also not rule out the possibility that by his inability to be very ferocious in the fight, that one can interpret as a tacit approval or sympathetic feeling towards them. You can't rule that out. For example, if I'm a farmer and agricultural matter comes up, I know this is the lifeblood, this is the lifeline. My attitude towards it will tell the kind of emphasis I give to it or seriousness to it. So in a way, but you see, we have to come to a point in Nigeria, because Nigeria is so divisive, that I choose to play the role of a unifying figure, right? So when you are assuming the role of a stakeholder, what you look at is solution rather than focusing on the problem. So I try to take my eyes off of who is responsible and who is not responsible. I criticize the government where I feel that they are not doing enough. Like in security, I said they are not doing enough. Now, $1 billion has been voted to fight this. Excellent. But we need counterintelligence. We need intelligence gathering. We can talk here till the cows come home. If the intelligence collation and processing and even the intelligence sharing is not done properly, the president may not be able to handle that.
Because government is not particularly behaved in a capable, caring, competent manner over this, there's a lot of imagination running amok, all right? But the reality is that, with the exception of those who were killed in churches or places of worship, it's difficult to begin to do these generalizations of the sort. And I think it demeans people who have been killed to begin to classify them with reference to sect. I will not get caught up in that. Every life killed is invaluable.
A lot of people have said that the president is not taking the necessary steps to address the issue. And rightly, they have a right to think so because of the president's body language. A lot of commentators, if you watch TV, have talked about, you know, the proscription of herdsmen, or at least government coming out to declare this organization as a terrorist group, like was done in IPOB. Boko Haram is the fourth deadliest terrorist organization in the world. So why is the government not making any statement? You saw the force where the government launched this operation Python Dance in the southeast against IPOB. So people might be right without conceding that government has no political will, or the language, the body language of the government is tilting towards protecting the herdsmen. I'm not saying that that's the situation, but that might be the interpretation people give to it. So the earlier the government comes out to take decisive action, even if it doesn't have any effect, but government must be seen to have taken that decision. Another argument people have is that the appointments of the service chiefs are skewed towards a geopolitical zone. So the government also needs to address that issue, because the feeling now is that decisions are taken without the contribution of other sections of the economy, the country. So it's a sign, it's a real cause for worry. I want to believe that the president too should also rejig the security architecture to ensure fair and equitable representation, even though it might not achieve the result, but the government must have seen to be taking some action.
I will agree there are lots of political undertone. But if you want to hear my perspective, not from the side of the law, but as a private citizen, I would look at it from the economic perspective. There is a quest for survival, and it is global. If you look at the Middle East, you look at what's happening in America, you look at what is happening in the US border, and with the decision of the US government to stop people from coming in. You look at what is happening in the West African sub-region, and you look at what is happening in Nigeria. There is quest for survival. For the reason that ranching was rejected or not accepted with speed in Nigeria remains strange to me. So that's why some people are led to believe that there may be an agenda for occupation of land. If not, you would have embraced ranching.
Anybody, when they sponsor them, or the reason and they agree, that the life of cow better than the life of human beings, may they do ready.
This are protesters who have come out to protest the endless killings of Nigerians since the beginning of this administration. Most of them wearing black, saying that the killings is one too many. At least about 2,000 Nigerians have been killed in the past, between January to date, as Nigerian government promised and assured Nigerians to continue to have confidence in the security agencies as they are on top of the situation.
We are tired of the whole situation, and so we have the responsibility to come out and seek for justice. If the government know that some people are behind the killings, like they have said, name these people, let them be arrested, let them be prosecuted, let them go to jail, let people begin to suffer for this act of killing. We cannot continue like this as a nation. People are now dying, and each day we just keep saying, oh, now 200 died today, I believe now 300 died today. Look, we're talking about human lives. And look, the government has the responsibility. That is the primary responsibility of every government.
Against the backdrop of government economic diversification agenda, analysts say that the program could be jeopardized as the agricultural sector under attack is critical to the economy.
Killings under all manner of circumstances. Children killed in front of parents, parents killed in front of children, parents and neighbors made to mass bury loved ones under duress, families evacuated with no notice, just having to flee with nothing but the clothes they've got on their backs, and if they have that luxury, the pair of slippers they have underneath their feet, with no clear place of refuge. Schools totally wiped out, children with no schools to go to, no sustenance in the world for them, and no promise of such sustenance. And if anybody knows what the consequences would be for those who have gone through this, that person is a much more endowed human being than anyone that I know of in the world. My fear is that those consequences are going to be with us for a heck of a long time. And those consequences would not contribute to making us a much more cohesive country, or a country in which people are more likely to coexist in peace. That's my fear, and that's the challenge. I mean, if you look back at the 2011 post-election violence in southern Kaduna, a lot of people think that that post-election violence has contributed in deepening, the front lines in southern Kaduna to the point now where they're so sharp that if you crossed in the wrong manner, you're finished. A lot of people also think that the 2001, 2002 killings in Jos, again, sharpened the front lines in Jos, so that those in Bukuru cannot go up north to Do, and those in Do cannot go down south to Bukuru. Now, that is, if you are of a particular lineage or a particular descent, you cannot be on Bauchi Road. And those are the kinds of things that we're talking about. And that's why it is important that when these kinds of things happen, leadership rises to the occasion and is able to prove to people that it can facilitate healing. We're not having that at this time. You know, we're on the verge of a catastrophe here. I don't know whether people realize it. The Middle Belt, affected by this for the most part, is the heart of our food economy. And the food agricultural economy in these parts of the Middle Belt also sustains the livelihoods of the people who live there. You know, most of them are land farmers. Now, the pastoralists farm cattle, farm herds, and farm livestock. And you have this contest in which the farmers are no longer able to go to their farms. They're afraid of being killed. The women are afraid of being abducted, raped, and stuff like that. So, food is not going to be produced. Next year, this farming season has been lost, for instance, because of the deepening cycle of violence in much of the Middle Belt. People are not going to their farms. And as a result, the next food season is going to be very difficult. People are not going to have food. So there's a food security, it's not just a human security crisis, a coexistence crisis, there's a food security crisis. The Middle Belt, for the most part, has supplied different other parts of the country with food. You know, fruits, tubers, and stuff like that, and also grains. Now you're going to have a situation in which we're not going to have that. But it's not just that, because these were sold by the people who participated in this form of livelihood in return for money with which they offset livelihood costs, social goods costs, and all of that, schools, hospitals, the lot. Now they will not have access to that money. Many of them have been displaced and are now destitute. And all of that exerts a cost on the public purse, quite apart from the productivity losses. Okay? You then have environmental costs. The fact that in a lot of places, in the affected communities, if you take Naka, for instance, in Benue State, because of these attacks, you know, people assume that the armed herders hide under the bushes or behind the long grass in order to commit these atrocities or put themselves in a position to do so. What have they done? They have exercised a prerogative to cut down or uproot most of the grass. Now, that is an environmental disaster on its own. Over time, you know, that could breed erosion over time. You know, the lands are going to lose their productivity, and you're going to have problems with extracting optimal value out of the land if you put it to use. What basically I'm saying is the consequences are incalculable. The human security costs, the food security costs, the coexistence and environmental security costs are just too far-reaching at the moment. And that is why the failure of government to act forcefully and firmly on this is beyond tragic.
The critical sector of the economy is the one under attack. So that brings down the question of impact, which is agriculture. In Nigeria's economy, when it comes to entrepreneurship and the rest, we have not encouraged the environment where entrepreneurs will rise. So, but we're having a breakthrough in agriculture because of the encouragement of farmers and because of certain decisions that the government has taken. So, and this is the very strength of this government that is coming under attack, whether you talk of the cattle, which is also agriculture, or you talk of the case of the farmers. And the hope for agricultural development in the country are in the Middle Belt. When you look at places like Benue State, you look at Taraba, you look at some of these other states. So the impact, no doubt, is spelling doom and it's negative on the government. That's why the government will have to take a decisive step to make sure that that is taken care of. There is no crisis that is new. It is how you manage a problem.
Amidst a wide debate over the structure of the country's policing architecture, police officers in troubled northeastern region protest non-payment of their allowances.
So we have been managing the police, and I must be fair with the police. All over the world, I can tell you that for free. The policing is taken seriously. When you look at the policeman on the street, if you ask me, I would say he's even tried. He has put his life on the line. Look at the other day, 6 policemen were gunned down. If you investigate, maybe these people were not better equipped to respond to this kind of sudden reaction from the people. United Nations has a standard of a number of people, number of police to manage a number of people. If you compare that to Nigeria, where we practically don't have a police system, then you look at their remuneration. The other day they had to protest. Gunmen protested. It's so bad. Police is not paid. Police is not better remunerated. He doesn't have health insurance. He doesn't have house allowance. You expose him. He's not paid for 7 months, and he has a gun in his hand. In America, they will tell you that that will have some degree of psychological defect in the brain, that the man can just do anything. So we have not been mobilizing and strengthening the capacity of our securities, especially police. So when a crisis shows up, that incapacity will quickly manifest itself. So that is what is happening with policing. But then we also have fewer police. We need more. That's why we are now canvassing for state police.
Opinions are divided over amending the Nigerian Police Act to allow for state policing. While some experts agree to the concept, others fear that state policing will warrant abuse of powers by state governors against their opposition.
It's happening in Ekiti. When a governor is threatening a president not to come and threatening him fire and brimstone, you can imagine if he has state police and all of that. No, we can amend the constitution, like I said, in such a way that after creating the police, you also amend section 308 of the constitution. You know, for now, the governor or the president, the vice president or deputy governor, they don't have criminal liability. They are immune from it. So now you will open it and qualify it. And one of which must be that where the governor uses or procures the machinery of the state, such as the police and any other security, something you mentioned, to intimidate, harass his opponent or even kill, that governor will be prosecuted and he will be found this and this and this and that. So you have taken away criminal immunity when somebody uses the police negatively. And I say around the time you also amend the constitution so as to take away criminal immunity from corruption. Where the governor, it is found that the governor misappropriated launder the funds belonging to the state, will be subject to criminal investigation without criminal prosecution, without prejudice to that being a gross misconduct, which should be a ground for his impeachment. And this applies to the president. So if we do that, then we will say we are really tackling this issue of managing crisis, because we cannot keep saying we don't want state police forever. The crises are becoming obvious. We can't survive without diversifying the police system.
I think state police is a non-starter. To be honest with you, I will not give state police to the current governor of Kaduna State, for instance, or give state police to the governor of Kano State and tell him, okay, face off with Kwankwaso, or give state police to the governor of Imo State, all right, or the governor of Rivers State. It's not a party political thing. I would just not give state police to most of the governors we've got at the moment. Think about giving El Rufai state police, I'm sorry, and telling him, okay, you know, and El Rufai goes around telling people, you know, I need you to bring me a strand of hair of Sheikh Husani. The state police will bring him Sheikh Husani's head on a platter, like John the Baptist's head. Not because, no, it is not because, you see, politics is also the art of symbolism. So he may not have meant it when he said it. He may have been saying it in jest. But a lot of the people who hear the governor say this thing may not have the sophistication of the governor's sense of humor, assuming that's what he was doing. That is the danger in these things. Or the governor of Rivers State in his contest with his immediate predecessor, or the governor of Kano State in his contest with his immediate predecessor, or the governor of Imo State, you know, in his contest against all the people who are saying, who want him to produce molds and statues of them. You know, this is the country in which we are. So anybody who talks about state policing just does not have my vote and will never, ever.
Recall that the National Assembly earlier rejected the creation of state police. But with the myriad of security challenges we're having, we just have to establish the state police with measures put in place to prevent the abuse. The courts are there. If your right is abused, you can challenge it in court. So we will not say because the rights of the citizens will be abused, then we will not have state police. I'll give you why I've always advocated for the creation of state police. The Nigerian police, as is constituted with the central control, cannot effectively police Nigeria. It's too central. Now, if you go to, I'll give you an example. If you take somebody from Maiduguri, Borno, or Sokoto and post to Bayelsa or Cross River, you see the two extremes. First of all, you have cultural differences, language barrier, religious differences, lack of confidence on the security agencies because they don't understand the language. But if you have the state police where the people are known within the area, they have the confidence to talk to the people. It's not as if when you create state police now, then you abolish the Nigerian police. No. They have to work in synergy, in collaboration to address our security challenges. There are areas that are exclusive to the Nigerian police. And there are areas too, I believe, when the law established, that we address the local issues like community policing and all the rest of the intelligence gathering and the rest of them. So I believe very strongly that we need the state police to effectively tackle our security challenges.
There is also a fiscal side to the state policing thing. At the moment, we are running a vast recurrent deficit. What do I mean? We are borrowing to pay salaries. So all of our capital expenditure is borrowed, and some of our recurrent expenditure is borrowed. So this year, we've got a federal budget of about, what? 8 trillion, of which somewhere between 2 to 2.5 trillion, well over, somewhere close to about 30% will be borrowed. Yes? Now, it could be more. Given the financing profile from 2017, it's probably likely to be more. But that's what we are looking at. All right? Now, if we're running a recurrent deficit, where are you going to find the money for state police? That's the question. Because state police will involve hiring new heads, new skills, new people, and somebody will have to pay for that. So think about this. And all state governments, or nearly all state governments, apart from Anambra and Lagos, have had to be bailed out by federal government because they cannot pay salaries. And many state governments, Kogi State is owing nearly 12 months, Osun State is owing, Ekiti State is owing, Imo State is owing, they are owing salaries for workers and pensioners. Now, you will then go and hire state police and arm them and not pay them. As we speak, just last week, wasn't it at the beginning of last week, police officers were protesting, were on the verge of a riot in Maiduguri because they were being owed emoluments, correct? So think about hiring new state police that you cannot pay all across the country, and you have all of them armed in uniforms with powers to come after you. Are you going to go back to the state?
You know, first of all, we got to where we are as a nation because of corruption, not because of lack of funds. Now, the argument that the creation of state police cannot be sustained in Nigeria because states are bankrupt, in my opinion, is lame. The reason is because most of the governors, or rather former governors that are standing trial or are being investigated, the amount involved in the investigation or prosecution is a clear proof that if these monies were used judiciously, then the state police cannot just be created but be sustained by states for the purposes of providing security. And then the second point is that the creation of state police will make available the abundance of federal police to be deployed into states that can't afford to create their own police. Because if, for example, Borno State Police, even if, for example, Borno State does not have enough funds to fund police, because Adamawa, Yobe, and Kano are able to create their state police, ordinarily the number of federal police that would have been deployed to these states can now be better deployed to Borno. This is without prejudice to grant that will be made available by an act of the National Assembly and various interventions that can come. So the creation of state police is long overdue, and it is what we cannot shy away from, because we cannot guarantee the security of lives and property until local governments and states are able to manage security situation. Every nation is judged by its ability to adapt to changing times. And this is the challenging moment in Nigeria's history.
There are no two federalisms that are the same. The idea that once you have federalism, you must have state police is a no-no. That's not borne out by practice or theory. With the current state of our political evolution, state police is a no-no. But we can do two things. One, we can do community policing and move policing resources, because the part of the crisis we've got is policing resources are caught up in the Inspector General's office. They don't go down. So the police officers at the front lines are deprived of the resources they need to provide services. And what do? They prey on the communities that they're supposed to protect. That's one. We can have proper community policing. The second thing related to this, decentralized policing. That has been recommended by 3 successive presidential police commissions, or presidential commissions on police reform. Damadami in 2006, Yusuf Damadami in 2006, MD Yusuf Muhammad Damadami in 2006, MD Yusuf in 2008, Pario Sayande in 2012. Decentralized. Now, at the moment, when you have a new Inspector General of Police, the man who wins retrenches his deputies in importance, because invariably the Deputy Inspector General of Police would have run against the Inspector General of Police for the role of Inspector General. So the most useless position in police structure, hierarchy, is Deputy Inspector General. But at the moment we also have 6 Deputy Inspectors General, each from one geopolitical zone. Think what would happen if you had a police management in which each Deputy Inspector General of Police had operational responsibility or command responsibility for one geopolitical zone. Assistant Inspectors General of Police were busy. Commissioners of Police are busy. Every one of them is resourced to an extent down to the divisional police officers. What you would have is a totally different kind of policing. More capable, and communities, if you have effective community policing, I guarantee you that communities will do what? Bring in their own resources into policing. At the moment, if you notice, almost every little estate in our built-up areas has a vigilante. Who pays for the vigilantes? It's the communities. So communities are already putting money into policing and policing activities. All we need to do is give them the latitude to have the kind of policing they can believe in, the kind of policing they can trust. And if they did that, you would have a complement of resources from government at the federal level, from state and local government, and from communities working together in a decentralized format to make the police deliver better to people. That is possible without talking about state police.
In the short term, government needs to adequately fund our security agencies so that they will have sufficient training. And don't also forget that this raging controversy of $1 billion that the presidency is asking for. So I think when this money comes into the system, it's going to help our security agencies. You remember too that Nigeria recently ordered for 12 Tucano aircraft from the US, and these are issues, even though they are long term, that are going to assist us. But in the short term, we need to rejig our security architecture for us to man effectively our security challenges.